Welcome, everybody, and welcome to this discussion, as Philip mentioned, on the Internet of Things. We're going to be talking about, as you can see down here on the end, the Internet of Onesies and the Internet of bottle warmers.
Yep.
And we're also going to talk about this device at the end over here at some point, which is the Internet of Coffee. But you have heard a lot about the Internet of Things, and we're going to talk about that with the three folks here. This is not about me, it's about them, so let me introduce them to you. Of course, next to me, Brian Krzanich, the Chief Executive Officer of Intel. For those of you who had the opportunity to see his keynote, I'm sure you read about it. Wearables and the Internet of Things was a central thing that Brian talked about last night. Next to Brian, we have Samir, who is with Autodesk, and Samir is going to talk with us about what Autodesk is doing in the context of the Internet of Things and how that you are empowering entrepreneurs as well as makers when it comes to the Internet of Things. And of course, over here, holding the doll that was on stage last night is Dulcie Madden with Rest Devices, and she's going to be showing not only some of her products, but again, talking about how Edison empowered the products that she's doing and what the Internet of Things means for her. And so, Samir, if I can, let me start with you. Samir Hanna, of course, is the Vice President, Consumer Products for Autodesk. And Samir, tell us a little bit about what Autodesk is doing in the context of Internet of Things, and what is your philosophy and approach to this particular category of computing?
Sure, sure. First of all, great to be here. You know, at Autodesk, we're all about helping people imagine, design, and create. We've been at this with our software tools for almost over 30 years in a wide variety of you know, from industries, construction, cars, film and game, etc. About a little bit over 3 years ago, my group started, which is focused on the consumer. And you know, as we all know, the consumer today is very much empowered, and things are starting more at home rather than at work. And so we provide creative tools. And over the last 3 years, we have almost 170 million users of our products that actually, you know, are self-described creatives. It's all about giving them the tools and the content to be able to actually create and play and share and be able to do these things. But tools alone are not enough. You want to take the virtual and make it physical, whether it is 3D printing or whether it is otherwise. And being able to do this in a way that is very easy, that doesn't require a lot of practice or training, is at the center of what we do. You know, if we've been talking about Internet of Things for how many years? And all of a sudden now, it is becoming reality because consumers are able to do it. And you know, very much the things and our partnerships with Intel allows that, particularly in the wearables. You know, if you think about, you know, how many of us have done a T-shirt or a tie-dye, whatever. You look at the T-shirt of the future, you know, you'll be able to actually embed anything in it. Trivial stuff.
Right there, a T-shirt of the future.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're all about, and empowering that, and it's making a difference in the life of people and removing those hurdles. So love it.
Dulcie Madden with Rest Devices, again, featured by Brian last night, her products in his keynote. Dulcie, tell us a little bit about Rest Devices and give us a little context on what do you see as far as the opportunities for entrepreneurs and makers like yourself in the world of IoT?
Definitely. So Rest Devices is, unlike Autodesk and Intel, a small early-stage startup based in Boston. My team and I came out of MIT. There's 7 of us. And what we started with was the idea for these sensors right here, which are the respiration sensors that go on the Mimo baby monitor. And we basically just had the concept for this. And as we were sort of noodling around thinking about the best integration, we had a lot of parents who came to us and said, hey, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Can you use these to help me know that my baby's going to be OK? So we started prototyping, started working, got out a prototype in a month. I've been doing a lot of testing with parents, and basically what you see here is a Mimo wearable baby monitor, essentially. So a baby wears this little organic cotton onesie with these sensors and a turtle, which is powered by Edison, like BK introduced last night. A parent is able to see their baby's breathing, skin temperature, body position, activity level, so if the baby's awake or asleep, and then also listen to audio in real time on your smartphone or tablet for both Android and iOS. So you can kind of see a live respiration trace right there. When we started, we were additionally looking at a solution for adults, sort of like what you're looking at now with more of the performance and fitness trackers. But we just saw overwhelming demand from parents to be able to do something that had this real, tangible, I think almost primal need for a lot of people to be able to know what's happening with their babies. We are a smaller startup, so we aren't massively funded, but we do have great supporters. But one of the cool things that we do is we use a MakerBot to prototype basically everything. And we'll talk about it more about everything and how we use Autodesk, but we were able to get a new product working with Intel Edison, the bottle warmer, this guy here, up and out and into fully functioning plastics and electronics in about a month, which you can really only do if you have a set of great tools for both software and hardware to let you move really quickly and really inexpensively.
Brian, I know you're very excited by this particular product, the opportunities that are out there when it comes to Internet of Things. You know, Intel has been doing Internet of Things related work for quite a long time, but now there's a bigger emphasis, there's more focus on it. What do you see as the market opportunities? What is the state of Internet of Things right now, and what are the challenges?
Sure, Larry. I think when you think about the Internet of Things, you have to separate it into two categories. And one I call kind of the industrial side. That's like, you know, embedded devices, whether it goes onto an air conditioner or inside a Coke machine, or that industry has been around for 30 plus years, that embedded world. That was an Internet of Things, though. And it's improved, and it's become more connected, and you're starting to see it spread out into more industrial applications. Cars, you could call kind of that extension. The other side is the same kind of technology, same kind of process, going towards individuals, humans. And Mimo Baby and Rest Devices is just one example. I believe actually very along the lines of what Dulce says. We want to start a revolution. We believe that the technologies you saw last night, whether it was using RealSense to scan in what you want, using 3D printers, using Autodesk to help you create this, that anybody can go out and make a device. And then with products like Edison, and then also just even our other products, all the way through Atom and Core, you can take any product you can make and make it smart and connected. And now you can build an ecosystem. Yep. And what we're finding is the opportunities are endless. There are an infinite number of things, and the more we think about it, the more kinds of things. You can imagine, you know, you talked about the baby, then you said, well, now we're thinking about ones for athletes. You could also think of one for elderly patients as well. Yep. And you just start thinking more and more about this, and it expands and explodes. And to me, that's the excitement of the Internet of Things. But we're at the edge of a revolution here between what the technology can provide, the ability to make anything smart, things like 3D printing. Everybody is going to be able to do this. Yep.
So just so everybody knows, we have some folks with microphones out in the audience. Can you hold your hands up? We have one over here. Where else? Over here on the edge. If you have questions, we'd love to take your questions during the discussion. Just let one of the folks with a microphone know. They'll let us know, and we'll get a question in there. You know, Brian, just to go a little further, it's not just Edison. I mean, in the Intel world, it's Quark all the way up to Xeon when it comes to our product line. So when people think of Internet of Things, we're not just talking about one product and just Edison that you announced last night.
No, you're absolutely right, Larry. And in fact, I was talking with several people this morning as well. And what we're finding is that the more these devices become connected, whether you're talking about the industrial devices like air conditioners or pumps or whatever, or people, it starts to feed a whole series of things. You start to see that you can put more intelligence out there so it can do something with the data that it sees. but also you have a large stream of data coming back now. And I was talking with a person who makes air conditioners, and they were saying, not only can we put smartness out at the air conditioner, we're getting information now real time on every single air conditioner in the world that we have. Now we're trying to figure out what do we do with that data. So you're talking about a server infrastructure, big data applications. All of these things become a part of the Internet of Things. And that's what's really exciting to me is, they're talking about how they're going to become a lot more efficient. They only send out repair people when they need them. They can actually run their air conditioners more efficiently because they have all kinds of data about what's going on in the air conditioner. Simple things like that are going to be transformed as a result of this technology.
Samir, why the opportunities now? In your view, what has changed to make this a more viable business?
I mean, first of all, the consumers, every one of us, have a computer in their pocket. We are much more aware. We are all connected. We are impatient. And all of these things together, I mean, the maker community very much is with us. The maker revolution is here. And you look at 20 million makers coming to our Instructables, our maker community, every month. And they want to be able to share and do stuff. And we want to be able to remove the hurdles. And what we're doing here is actually exactly that. And you think about, we just announced 1 to 3D circuits. We introduced this in September. 30,000 people that have never designed circuits are now actually building circuits. And we just announced, including Edison libraries, both mechanical and electrical inside that. And all of a sudden, what is different about Edison today? Size, availability, flexibility. Be able to remove the hurdles, coupled with the software, and then coupled with the, innovators and things like what REST devices are doing, actually make these things possible. And it's all about the creativity, spurs innovation, innovation brings in new businesses, and it makes a better world.
Dulcie, talk for a minute. I mean, you touched on it in the beginning about what Edison allowed you to do, what it enabled. Talk a little bit about what your thought process was there, what you thought when you saw the product, and what would be your message to other entrepreneurs out there who would also want to use that product.
Yeah, definitely. So it's worth it to note from the very beginning that this has all happened really fast. We've been working with Edison for 5 weeks, which means that we were able to onboard it into our product and develop the software, which is remarkable when you're thinking about things from the perspective of a startup and as an entrepreneur. Super awesome. But basically what we had when we started sort of thinking about it is we had the Mimo baby monitor, but we knew that we wanted to build Nursery 2.0 and really build out the larger product ecosystem. We talk to parents every week and be like, what's your biggest pain point? What do you want to fix? What do you need time saving? Anything else? And with the capabilities that Edison has and sort of the software support, the cost, the form factor, everything for babies has to be really cute. So you want everything to be small enough that it can still look okay. We were able to really get out there and be more creative and brainstorm. So we'd had this concept for the bottle warmer, which you see here, and Samir will kind of talk about it more in a little bit. But we were able to really think about building an intelligent system around both the baby monitor and the bottle warmer. So what happens with these two products is that the Mimo baby monitor knows when your baby's sleeping. The bottle warmer, because of Edison, can have this layer of intelligence to know your baby's feeding schedules. So now we know when your baby wakes up, and if they're going to be hungry, we'll start warming the bottle, let you know that everything is good, hopefully shave down a few minutes when you're up for those nightly feedings, with the whole goal of getting parents more sleep. We're able to do that in a month. And when you think about integrating an entirely new, brand new hardware system, as well as a software stack into that, that's like mind-boggling. It just means we're going to be able to roll out new products at a crazy pace, which we're really looking forward to doing, to continuing to deepen the product and consumer experience for moms and dads, and maybe even for their brothers and sisters, who knows. And also, something else that entrepreneurs think about a lot is cost, right? So hardware isn't cheap, and if you're a young startup, you're sort of like, oh my God, how much is the cost for this going to be? What's the bill of materials? And they're working to make Edison affordable for young entrepreneurs, young companies, young startups. So between cost, I'd say speed, and sort of just the form factor, making sure that we can stay true to what we want our product to be, it's huge. Yep.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
you said something really important at the beginning. You said you talked to a lot of parents, you understood the pain points, and you went about to go solving that. And I think that's a key thing we've talked about with wearables. And really, when you talk about any of the Internet of Things, you really have to understand the problem and come in with one solution that does everything.
Totally. And I think if you're thinking about parents, you're exhausted, you already have a lot of stuff. You have to make it seamless and make it be very tailored and usable for what they're doing. On top of that, it has to be really robust. So everything from Wi-Fi connectivity has to be really bulletproof for onboarding, getting the product using, making sure it's reliable. And everything that you're looking at for hardware that enables you to do that means that you're just developing that loyalty for moms and dads, which is really important to us.
I think all of us remember when we had young children, it was many years ago, putting the mirror under the nose, right? Or having somebody go in and talk quietly to make sure that that radio transmitter was working. And that literally solves this. I mean, it's as you said last night, Brian, we're solving real problems.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to do it. We've been working with a lot of awesome moms and dads, and the biggest thing for us is making sure that what we're doing is relevant and that they're going to use it and that they're going to love it.
So you have to tell people one of the next applications you're thinking of, because that one's, I mean, it's a simple problem that everybody faces, but nobody's going to solve it with.
Yeah, so we continue to brainstorm. So we're doing a couple things. There's a smart baby mobile, but what we're really excited about to bring out in the next year or two is a potty training system that can basically help mom and dads, especially for those little boys, help them get off the diapers and using the potty faster, which is crazy, but it's awesome that we can do it. Yeah.
The diaper industry is not going to want to hear that, but it's a great move forward. Samir, we have a really good partnership with you, Intel and Autodesk. Talk a little bit more about that.
I think there are two sides to it. On the business side, of course, we have almost every company under the sun using our collective hardware, software to be able to design everything. On the consumer side, on the other hand, it's a completely new frontier that is very exciting and very much connected, because every industry, whether you're a construction company or a hardware company or a game and film company, you're trying to actually reach more consumers, and the consumers are finding that ability for customization, for independence is very much real. And Dulcie said something very interesting. Ability to actually iterate and try many different designs. Not once, but 10, 15 times in a very short amount of time, changes the dynamics. And I think that's, we're delighted that REST devices are able to use 123D, which is a collection of apps and products from a form factor to in terms of design or circuits, and they are free products. We want to be able to actually have things like this happen, because that is changing the whole ecosystem. And when that happens, great things happen. And that's what's exciting. You see a video there, that's a time-lapse video of actually a 3D print on a MakerBot of exactly this. You design it and hit print, and there you go. And you try different aspects, different things, and you see as you talk to people and the parents, and that's what's great about all of this.
And another comment, big companies can benefit from this revolution as well. And I'll use a real example. You saw, if you attended this presentation last night, the Smart Bowl, which was the charging device. Well, 5 weeks ago, that was somebody's cereal bowl with wire wrapped around it as we were trying to figure out how to make that work. As we figured out technically how to make that work, we then handed it over to one of the guys in the group that's a design guy. And what he did was iterate with this exact process. And we would iterate with 3D printers and get the bowl to how we want it to look and make sure that physically it could still work. Now we can go out and make millions of them in a different process. But we were able to iterate all of that from a cereal bowl wrapped in wire 5 weeks ago to what you saw on stage last night. That process you couldn't have done any other way, not with the level of engineering and design melded together. It just wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, any questions from anyone out in the audience? As I said, we have microphones out there. If you have a question, raise your hand. And while you're thinking of one, Brian, let me ask you, you introduced Edison last night. Talk a little bit more about the strategy behind Edison and where you see Edison being used even more broadly than what we've already talked about and what we're seeing on stage here.
Sure. You know, it started back, I don't know, well, actually, you could probably go back, if you go back to Quark's beginnings, it was about 2 years ago, a group of us, Doug's in the audience, I see, who made Quark as kind of an underground project within Intel to build a core that was below anything else we'd built. And at that time, we were really thinking for the kind of the industrial Internet of Things. But as we started to get closer and closer to reality, we realized that the Internet of Things was exploding. There was this kind of personal side of the Internet of Things, people, and that's really how Quark came about. Edison was, as we started to see things like Arduino and Raspberry Pi, we started thinking about how could we apply Moore's Law to this world. And it also got to that question that I talked about last night, which was as we started to think about wearables and the Internet of Things, we realized that the real answer is to make everything smart. If you have the ability to make everything smart in both hardware and software, then the number of possibilities are endless. So we've now built a roadmap with things like Edison to allow us to go even further. And so over the next year or two, you'll see innovations around Edison with more functionality and even smaller form factors, smaller than what you saw last night, that will allow anything, things that we can't even imagine today, to become smarter and smarter. The possibilities we've found when you start to think about it, it goes from everything from as simple as potty training to, what can you do with simple devices around your house? We kind of played around one time. Imagine if your mouse was your whole PC and that your desktop was just a mouse and that was it. And that's all you needed. That and a screen and you could go anywhere. Imagine if, we started to move that all of your computing devices could fit in one device that fit in your pocket. And you just moved around from smart screen to smart screen. So you can really take this quite a ways, and we're trying to build this vision over the next 4 or 5 years to actually deliver this in reality. Your abilities then to start thinking about the application become almost endless. Anything can become smart.
So, Dulcie, you talked about the potty training aspect.
Yep.
Are there things on the drawing board for you? You're an entrepreneur, you're an innovator, so what kinds of things are further down the road in the idea stage that you can talk about?
Yeah, there's sort of a bunch. We are thinking about a smart baby mobile. Our goal is to basically be able to make a product for every year of a baby and a child's life, so that as you're sort of growing, for that stage when your kid is just running around like crazy and you lose them in the mall, which my mom did with me all the time, being able to help with that. But we'll see. We're open to pretty much any feedback from parents anywhere. So the biggest thing is just seeing what's going to be helpful to people. I think the other part that's going to be cool is that with things like 3D printing, with increasingly smaller form factors, there's a lot that we can do with the existing products that we have to continue to make them better, cuter, faster, stronger. So, yeah.
And I would assume, Brian, given the trajectory you mentioned of Moore's Law, that this is only going to get smaller, faster, better, generation on generation.
Yeah, you saw Edison in the form of an SD card. You don't have to be a genius to think the next thing is to go to a micro SD card and have even more functionality. That's on the drawing blocks already. You're going to keep going down. My guess is this will be to a small dot that you can embed in the fabric itself. And there's no reason why we can't make it hermetically sealed and able to go through the wash.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think this can be embedded in clothing of all sorts and types over the next 4 or 5 years. I really don't think that's that hard. And so I see a roadmap like that over time.
And Samir, what are the implications for you?
One thing we didn't touch on today is education. There is an amazing, opportunity in education. We're very much surprised how much fifth graders can do, with our tools and things like what we have with Edison and with the platforms and products like 123D allows them to actually explore alone with their parents or with the teachers in a classroom setting or on their own, things that have never been possible before. And that just brings innovation and creativity down. You know, we say how kids lose the creativity when they go to school, and hopefully we'll be able to reverse that with tools and ecosystems like this. And I think that's definitely one. I think removing the hurdles and making it even simpler and easier for people to use, and you know, where the content is even more available virtually that is existing physically. The integration, I mean, this will not be possible if you can't connect the onesie to the different devices, and being able to design that experience is something that will get better and better with time. And
Yeah.
One thing we didn't have enough time to really talk about last night in the keynote, we mentioned it, but the other side of this is the software side, and that is where especially a lot of small startups struggle a bit. We mentioned that we were doing a partnership with Wolfram and the Wolfram language and the Wolfram Mathematica. That is actually going to be an embedded software that will allow people to do, I think, very quick, if you want to be able to do this kind of interaction between devices, being able to do simple algorithms within the device itself to make some intelligence around it.
Yep.
That will actually enable people to do it very, very quickly, very, very simply in almost an app-based kind of environment.
Yeah, and I think that's the other part, is you want to lower the barrier to entry for a lot of startups, but then the other part of it, and especially in the hardware community, is it's community, right? And so every startup wants to talk to each other. There's products that aren't within necessarily our space that we're still going to want to be able to enable with the Edison system or with a larger Internet of Things. And that could be everything from a coffee maker, so when you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you can get that started, to really any product. And if you have the computing power on this to be able to run those algorithms and sort of have the software side of it, I think that's huge. And if you can share that and people can really do that across entire companies and software systems and groups of people, I think that'll be just amazing for accelerating development.
And sharing there, by the way, is not just, you know, it's sharing ideas, content, as well as the software. You know, someone may have written or designed something and want to be able to make it available and share. And that's the whole idea of having an innovative, creative community. And that grows and is authentic and, you know, is passionate about what they have, you know, and we have to get out of the way as we're, you know, let them do their thing. I think that's, and we're trying hard to do that, so.
This concept that you're all touching on, this democratization, if you will, of technology and development with products is really a powerful, powerful concept, isn't it, Brian?
It is, and that's why you know, we've tried to engage the maker community, because that's a community of complete open source. Everything we've done with Galileo and Quark, we've tried to make open source. And I think you mentioned, Dulce, a good point. You've got to get the price points so that everybody can afford this. We haven't announced the prices yet for Edison, but I guarantee you they will be more than affordable. They're not going to be outside the reach of startup companies and makers and that community.
Yep.
Our whole idea here is to enable a large, broad ecosystem.
Yeah, and that's huge. And when you're thinking about it, like, you know, my team, part of whom is back there who develops it, now they can just do a chip instead of, we had an assemblage of a bill of materials that was a bunch of disparate components. I mean, this is just, it's going to make both the hardware and the software guys' life so much easier. It's great.
Well, and the fact that all the devices are the same and all of your
across the board.
other add-ons makes the software and integration very easy.
It's much, much simpler.
So, any questions out there in the audience? Raise your hand. This is your opportunity. Be bold. Ask a question. So, we've got one right here. Let us know who you are, please.
Hello? Hi.
Yep.
My name is Yuri, and I work with a nonprofit that works with amazing startups in the developing world and emerging markets. We're bringing here one of the teams, and last year we brought another team who is Innovator Awardee this year in Cebit, and Teddy the Guardian is here. And they do something very similar to what you're doing. But one of the things that they have troubles with is finding collaborators, people who can help them out.
Yep.
As simple as an accelerator, incubator, advisors, things like that. So in your experience, if you have gotten like collaboration with other startups, what would be your advice on how to accelerate what they're doing in other countries, in emerging markets?
For other startups and for emerging markets? So I actually used to work in development in India for a long time. So I think what's going to be awesome for startups in developing countries is that the biggest barrier, I think, for a lot of companies who are developing, whether it's software or hardware, is access to information. And with the internet and increasing connectivity across rural parts of the world, it's going to totally change that landscape. I think the other biggest thing is don't be afraid to ask for help, talk to your users, and trust yourself. I think as like young entrepreneurs, you can often get hung up and not necessarily, I mean, no one really knows what you're doing when you're starting a company, right? I mean, you do, but there's a lot of unknowns, and every entrepreneur, whether they're in Brazil or Timbuktu or the United States, I think sort of has to have that confidence to go out and just get something done and know that if you're talking to your users enough and you're just sort of iterating enough towards what their goal is, then you can sort of make it a reality. And then just ask questions, you know, just find the right people and be bold and like get in touch with them and find out the answers that you want. Does that help? Yeah.
I think, let me just add one thing to that. You know, emerging countries already have a lot of, 40% of our 170 million users are from emerging countries.
Yeah.
And we don't reach them physically, we reach them virtually. We just give and enable the communities for them to be able to interact across the various places, like Instructables and others. And I think that's one way to enable, because you know, then they can learn from each other, both in the same geo and outside that. But of course, a lot more needs to happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's at least the first step. And there's certainly a lot of hunger. And you know, we see that in the hacker spaces, all the fab labs and that are popping up, and certainly that movement is very dynamic. So,
Yeah.
Thoughts, Brian?
You know, your problem is my vision. My vision is that if you can figure out what you want to build and you want to make it smart, it'll be simple. You'll know you just go buy an Edison or its follow-on product. You know that there'll be an ecosystem of software and developers, startups that we can connect you with. You'll know that the software that's on there is a language that's easy to use. We talked about app-based and very simple languages that you can use to get started. So your problem is actually my vision. I think over the next year or two, we can go solve most of those issues you just described. You think up what you want, we'll help you make it smart. I think we have to get there. We have to get there such that there's tools like Autodesk to help you design it. There's the software built in. There's the simple form factor. You know, that's the way we're doing it. Is it's a simple SD card slot that's modified slightly that this thing plugs into. You can put that in almost any form factor you can think of. Now I just have to get you past the wiring, which he can help with, and then past the software, which we'll go work on next for you. And I think at the end of that, then it's going to be fairly simple for you to design what you want to do. It's going to just take us a little while. That, and we build up an ecosystem of users that have already built in it, who are more than willing to share what they've learned, you should have no problem, I believe. And we'll build that ecosystem too. We'll have a place where people can go to get information on how they've used Edison and what have they done and what have they solved as they've gone through that.
And I think, Brian, that's a really important point, and maybe you can elaborate on it a little more. Edison's not just a chip. It is an ecosystem. There is a whole development platform around it. Talk for a minute.
Yeah, there is. I mean, we tried to make that point last night. The silicon inside it is actually just a portion of it. It's really the idea of building this form factor, building a full functional system. That is a computer. And to keep shrinking that down so that it's form factor, we drove the form factor as an SD card because it was something that everybody has. And you could imagine all the things that have SD cards. And if all those things could become smart, what would you do? And so it was a way to click in people's mind. If it has an SD card and I could make it smart, what could I do differently with the world? So that's part of it. Then we've built this relationship with Wolfram to try and we'll build some more relationships to make the software side go. And then the last thing is to start to build a community of users. And REST Devices is the start of one, but we've already started getting engaged with a variety of people, both big industry and small. And some of it are just based on our passions. We want to go build little model planes or something that have a smart intelligence, or they're built around people who have a real drive for what they're trying to do. So all of that will come over the next couple of months.
Yeah. You have a question over here? Right here? Hi, please let us know who you are.
Hi, my name is Khushbu Goyal. I work at Intel.
Uh-oh.
So it's an Intel question.
An insider.
So when is it releasing in the market, the whole onesie, and what is the price point? When is it releasing in the market, and what is the price point?
The baby monitor, you guys can speak to Edison. For the actual Mimo baby monitor, it will be released this week, so stay tuned for details. And the price point is $199 for 3 of these onesies, which are totally machine washable, by the way, and the turtle. And then you can buy additional onesies as your baby grows, or if you have an explosive blowout situation. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Not much of a cost for the security you feel, right?
Yeah. We'll try to make it as price affordable as we can. Yeah.
We have one over here, too.
Uh-oh, Skylar.
I'm Skylar. Once the Internet of Things takes off, how will we process all the data that we'll be getting from all of these Internet-connected devices? And also, how will we handle connecting devices in places where there isn't good connectivity currently, like in Antarctica and places like that?
So that's a good question. So to answer the first one, I'd be glad to sell you as many servers as you'd like, Skylar, to solve your data problems. But actually, there's a better answer. I think one of the advantages of making everything smart is you don't just have a bunch of sensors out there sitting on a device, sending all the data back. We believe that the more intelligence you put at the edge, the better off you are. Because now you can do 2 things. You can build algorithms down at the edge to deal with the data real time. It may save you hours and millions of dollars if you can react more quickly with the data that's coming off real time. And Edison and devices like Edison and Atom can do that out at the edge of the Internet of Things. You can put in things that say, shut down that air conditioner, your compressor pressure is getting too low, or whatever the device is. So that's step 1. The second thing is, a smart device out there can actually filter the data and put it into packets that make sense. So you're not dealing with a flood of data. You can actually organize the data out at the edge. Then at the end, you do want all that data back at your main hub to go through like a big data type analysis to really understand what is it telling you, what can you do with it, how can you optimize your operation. But what we find is the payback on those solutions are infinite. They pay back almost instantly because you become more efficient, you become more cost effective, and you actually get better customer service. The customer is happier. As far as what do we do if you don't have Wi-Fi, we're looking at adding things like 3G or LTE. We have those technologies within Intel. We typically try and balance those versus cost, right? Because you have to go build a service. We can do almost any kind of connectivity you want, all the way through satellite with additional devices. I don't know if you'd ever build that into an SD card and how much of a market it would have, but we have the ability to add almost any kind of connectivity you would need.
Yeah, another point that, Skylar, you can, when you have so much data, you can inspire people. You can pick the right amount of data. In addition to what Brian said, there is, people want to be inspired. And it's not just stories, but the data behind the stories. And you can pick the right things because inspiration comes before creation. And together, then you're able to go across. And I think what's really exciting is that the acceleration of how much data is getting harvested now. And we're seeing a lot of advancements that we didn't even dream about a couple of years ago.
Dulcie, I'm just curious, I'm sure you've thought of more sophisticated ways to use the data that you're going to be gathering in devices like that? I mean, right now it's respiration, it's heart rate, I mean, it's those things.
Yep.
But I would assume you've thought kind of further down the line
Yep.
because you're going to be gathering more data,
A lot.
or you're going to have the ability. What will you do with that data?
You know, I think it'll be sort of interesting. I think that there's, I mean, privacy concerns, but assuming the parents can opt into donating their data, essentially, there's a bunch of things you can do with it. There is not that much information that's available right now for infants and sort of their ongoing biometrics when they're not in a hospital. So if you're looking at anything that happens in a home, whether it's just fevers or anything like that, this could be of use to them. This isn't a medical product, but making that data set available could be really, really helpful. And then, you know, as your sample size approaches infinity, who even knows what you'll find? Like, there are correlations and sort of random characteristics, and with the amount of sensors that you're able to put on, even if they're not necessarily active for a parent, you can kind of pull out and extrapolate these gems that I think can be really useful down the road. That could be everything from being able to alter your air conditioning because you know that your baby, you know, sleeps better in a slightly cooler room to be, you know, I think there's a lot that you can do with it. And part of that could be for research, part of that could be for improving the parent experience, part of that could be for looking at other products that no one's even thought of before.
Yeah, because think about it. The first thing you do when you walk into your doctor's office with your child, or unfortunately an emergency room, is they ask you, well, can you tell us how this, you know, what happened?
Yeah.
How did it happen? You know, what's its temperature been doing? How's its breathing been?
Yeah.
How's the baby been behaving, right?
Yeah.
Well, imagine walking in with a minute-by-minute printout. Oh, well, here's its breathing, here's its temperature, here's its motion, here's everything about the child for the last 24 hours.
Right.
I mean, a doctor is going to have infinite more capability to solve your issue with that data. And that doesn't require you to open up your data or have privacy. That's data you want to share real time with your doctor.
Right, and I think there's
that's infinitely, I'd pay $1 million for that at the right time, right?
It's huge. Well, and that's what the part of it is. So you have to think about the accuracy and being able to make sure that everything that you're doing is really accurate. But then you have to think about when you're going to want that. Because if you provide that every second of every day to a parent and it's kind of always there and like, then I think that could be a stressful environment. But you want to make it be there in the background so that when they do want that deeper sort of information experience for when they have to do something, that they're able to have it. It's all about having it there and then making it useful when it is useful for that person.
I mean, on the other end of the spectrum, imagine, you know, we talk about smart buildings and how you can conserve energy and be able to actually, you know, our whole suite of BIM products, building information modeling, is all about that, being able to collect the data and enable you know, an owner to be able to actually control the costs and the building. So there are all sorts of different, both ends of the spectrum in terms of using the data. It's a treasure.
Yeah. I think we have a question over here.
My name is Avidan. I run a early stage venture fund. Hi, Dulcie. So I'm focused on connected devices. I invest primarily in connected devices and robotics. So I am extremely excited about Edison because this really means I am going to see a slew of entrepreneurs coming forward who had ideas previously and are now empowered to go ahead and build those products and, you know, move forward with those ideas. Which actually brings me to an interesting question. So you decided to use Wolfram, and I think that's a fantastic decision because it's an untapped world of developers who haven't generally been associated with the maker movement or the hacker spaces where you see a lot of Arduinos being used, but people develop their first prototype with Arduino and then realize Arduino isn't something you can bring to scale, manufacturing hundreds of thousands of products. How do you see yourself kind of appealing to that maker community and getting them to use Edison at the earliest stages when it means something like learning Wolfram or going to a chipset that they don't necessarily see the community? So I'm really intrigued to understand how you guys plan on reaching out to those people.
Sure. We have a Galileo, so we have our own Arduino. We believe that we want to go enable that part of the maker community as well, right? And we can bring additional value, additional capability. But Edison, I think you're right, is a unique opportunity. I'll tell you there's a couple of ways. One, we are actually tied fairly closely, and several of us, Mike's in the audience, myself, attend many of the maker fairs, and we're going to start trying to have a presence there. Because I think step one is you have to educate that community about what's possible, right? Second, you'll see there's a maker section of our booth back here, right? All of those guys are tied to us in some way, including Skylar, who was up here. We had Joey, who's back in the back. Yeah, there he is. We're connecting and putting them as part of our company now. We want to connect in because I want to hear both sides. I want to show them what I can do, but I also want them to tell me what they want. What is it that community needs and can jump with? We started with Wolfram because a lot of us have used that technology in architecture ourselves and have been fascinated by it. And as we met Stephen Wolfram, I actually spent time with him this morning, we've learned that he has a great vision for how to simplify software and how to bring it to this community as well. So we're finding a marriage that's possibly very powerful here. I don't think that'll be the only one we do. I think we'll find other software capabilities that we want to go enable in this, especially as we look more on the industrial side. But for this maker community, I believe that it's really got a possibility. So at the end of the day, I think the answer is events like this. This will get a lot. Engaging with the community, with some of the leaders like we've talked about here, and getting there. I think the best thing about the maker community is you show up at these things and you show them what you build. And so a couple of us are off working with some companies to go build some really cool robots, drones, things that the maker community really gets into, and show them how we can do this for very low cost. Imagine drones where so many of these things have cameras on them, but the camera's dumb. At best, it shines back to you and you can do real time. But imagine you put intelligence into that camera, and now it's talking about tracking or collision avoidance or whatever. We can do that and do it simple. And so I think when we show them what they can do, it'll explode. And then the last thing, you saw the contest last night. That's to engage these guys. It's to not only show them that we'll put money behind it, but we'll help them bring these to actual production. And I think that'll be really fun. I see that could keep going for a long time, and we could engage the VC community and have them help us really bring these ideas to reality.
Can I just also comment on something? Because the maker community is about insane creativity, right? Like there is amazing stuff that happens out at the fringes of sort of the tinkering movement, which I think is wonderful. But if you're going to be commercializing a company and a product beyond that, then you get to the supply chain. Whoa, that's a whole different ballgame. And being able to have something that enables you to do the crazy tinkering, but then if you want to actually bring it to life and get it to people without having to totally rework lead times where you're ordering from working across a ton of suppliers, is something that will change the game for entrepreneurs. And I think that's something that's really important for a lot of early stage startups to really think about. You can onboard all of that creativity, but also enable the longer term pipeline.
And at the heart of the Intel Autodesk relationship are the makers. This is what our users are. They are makers, and they want to be able to have access at the right form factor with the right price. Intel will not be able to keep up. I think it's and as time as we're in the beginning of a journey, and I think that's what's great about it.
Yeah. So I think we're out of time. Correct? We have one more question. Okay, before you ask your question, I want the three of you to be thinking. I will ask one final one, which is, as you look in that crystal ball, what do you see when it comes to Internet of Things 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So keep that one in mind, and let's go to one final question.
Hello, I'm Dimitri Carbonell. I'm the founder of Livosphere, and I'm doing connected objects. And I think Edison is great by creating connected objects. The point is, how do you then transmit information to the internet? Usually you use Bluetooth, you use Wi-Fi, but you still need to go through a smartphone or a DSL box. So are you working or trying solutions to connect directly your different products directly to internet? And then just one last thing concerning the different trends you're talking about. In fact, I've written a certain number of trends in 2014, and the things you're talking about, it's on it also. But that's just one for.
So I think you're asking a similar question to what Skylar said. So things like Edison, that has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on it. With Wi-Fi, you don't have to go to your phone. You can go, right to a access point, right? So if you have access to the access point, then you can go out. We are already looking at, should we put 3G or LTE on these? We have the IP within Intel. It's simple to do. I think we're trying to test I want to hear from the maker community how many people really want that. So if people want it, it's easy for us to provide. We'll absolutely provide that. Now you have direct access back into whatever location base you want and back into your server. But most applications, I don't think Mimo Baby needs a 3G connection. Wi-Fi or Bluetooth is fine. And I think that's the majority of the application space. We see it right now.
So look into that crystal ball for us, Dulcie. What do you see?
I think for me, as an early stage startup, you want to lower those barriers. And what I would love to see is sort of everything made smart because it's inexpensive enough and easy enough and small enough. So you can just enable every idea. Because we can't even imagine what it'll be, but you want to make everything possible.
Samir.
I mean, there's no question things will be smarter and smarter. The barriers will go down. The prices will go down. The community of creative hobbyists, entrepreneurs, students will expand and expand. And I think that will just be good for everyone in the world. So it's great.
And Brian?
Yeah, I think whether it's 5 years or 7 years, out in the future, I think it's going to be that anybody can make a smart product. You don't have to be an electrical engineer. You don't have to be a software programmer. You don't have to have this access to a supply chain in whatever location. A person at home with the next 2 generations out of Edison, a 3D printer, and some basic software, programming like you do on your apps today, and you can make whatever you want, and it's smart and connected. I really believe we can get it so that everybody in this audience could build whatever they want like that. That, I think, will change the world.
So as Brian said, we've got makers here. We have Internet of Things. And we have Dulcie, who is over here with her Mimo Baby products. Go see her. You're going to have to wait in line. You've been a very busy girl today. Samir, you are here too to take questions and interact with people and talk with people. Oh, over here, by the way, raise your hands over here where the Costa coffee machine is. A great example of a smart internet-connected device that is all about a customer experience around coffee. Go check it out. It's got a Core i7 processor in it, by the way, and an Intel SSD. I had to put that commercial in there. But go over there and experience that. Experience all the Internet of Things here in the booth. Ask a lot of questions. Have a conversation. Dulcie, Samir, Brian, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks all of you for participating.
Thank you.